Ready, here we go. Well, good morning, everybody. It is Thursday, August 28th, 2025, 7:30 in the morning. And this is the gathering and meeting of the Edina Housing and Redevelopment Authority. This is an example of life going on. Highways are congested. People are moving about, doing the things they have to do in life. But yesterday was a pretty tragic day in the Twin Cities, particularly in Minneapolis, and particularly for the parents and the kids at Annunciation Church in South Minneapolis. And last night, my wife and I went over to Lyndhurst Park, part of that gathering over there, that candlelight vigil. Heard many of our leaders, including the mayor of Minneapolis, articulately express their emotions around this terrible tragedy where, as the principal of the grade school said, a couple of angels were created yesterday. An 8-year-old and a 10-year-old whose identities we do not yet know. And of course, people in our town are worried too, but we've tried to assure them. Folks have wondered whether this is something that's anti-Catholic by circumstance that happened here over the last few days. So we've been coordinating with Our Lady of Grace and other private schools about security, and this is not to indicate that this is something new. This is something that we do on a regular basis. And with our public schools, emails coming in about whether first floor windows in our schools are adequately protected. Because we used to think that trouble happened inside, and now it can happen from the outside too. And so, even though this phenomenon of life going on, we know that presidents get assassinated as it happened with John Kennedy. Life just kept moving on, and life will move on here too. But for a moment this morning, and I think for a while yet, we'll hit that pause button and think about these families, the staff at Annunciation Church, our first responders. And in that regard, I want to commend the City of Edina Police Department. They were some of the first to respond. Our chief was over there helping coordinate things for the City of Minneapolis. We had about 4 or 5 officers there as well, as we learned from our city manager yesterday, who tried to keep us informed of what was going on. So we sent yesterday afternoon to the broad public a note of empathy and support. And that was earnest and heartfelt, and we will be there and stand with the people of Minneapolis and the congregation and people at Annunciation Church to help them any way that we can as good neighbors. And our thoughts and prayers are with the families involved. So on we go here, turning to the work of the day, keeping in mind all of those people that need our special thoughts and prayers. So thanks for that moment, and let's just have a moment of silence. Thank you, everybody. Thanks to the folks that are here this morning with us to talk about things that are housing related. As people know, we're doing these meetings on a hybrid sort of basis. Folks can watch us online. Some folks come into the actual meeting and can testify. We've got a couple opportunities usually for people to testify. So there's a phone number on the screen if anybody's watching and wants to call in. We welcome you calling in with any concerns that you have to address with the commissioners. I'll now call the meeting to order and ask our Executive Director and our City Manager, Scott Neal, to call the roll.
Commissioner Risser.
Here.
Commissioner Jackson.
Here.
Commissioner Pierce.
Here.
Commissioner Agnew.
Here.
Chair Hovland.
Here. Next is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We've got a form of meeting agenda that was published for this morning's meeting. Is there anyone on the council or from a staff standpoint that wishes to modify the meeting agenda in any form or fashion? Is there a motion to approve the form of meeting agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Jackson moves. Commissioner Pierce seconds the adoption of the meeting agenda as published. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approval of the meeting agenda say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. The meeting agenda is approved. And we will now turn to that meeting agenda. And the first thing we have in that meeting agenda is community comment. So if there's anyone in the audience here that wishes to address the council on a matter of concern to them, or the HRA, I should say, please feel free to come forward. I don't see anybody coming forward. I'm going to check with our communications director, Jennifer Benarott, to determine whether we have anybody online that wishes to
Good
speak.
morning. I don't have anyone online, but because there is a slight delay in the broadcast, I would recommend that we wait about a minute before moving on, making sure we're giving people adequate time to dial in. My clock shows that it's 7:37. I'll come back to you at 7:38 or when I have a caller, whichever's first. It's been a minute and I still don't have a caller, so I think it's safe for you to move forward with the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Our usual practice after community comment, whether it's us sitting as the HRA or the city council, is to turn to our city manager or executive director when we're in an HRA meeting to see if there are any responses to community comments made in the prior meeting, and I don't think there were any that you needed to respond
We had
to.
no community comment at the last HRA meeting.
Very good. We've got about a half a dozen items on the consent agenda. Is there anyone on the HRA that wishes to remove an item from the consent agenda for individual discussion? Is there a motion to adopt the items on the consent agenda in a single motion?
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Jackson moves. Commissioner Pierce seconds the adoption of the items on the consent agenda in a single motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of those four items on the consent agenda in a single motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Those items are adopted and approved. We are next going to turn to kind of the heart of the meeting, and that is, incidentally, the documents that we're going to prepare relating to 3400 Parkland, 5010 Summit Avenue. Some nice work there. It's going to be a great restoration or improvement of those two properties, and I think we're all keen on seeing what's happening there.
Right, it's very exciting. It took a while, as with 100% affordable housing developments happens, whether they're rehabilitation or new construction, multiple years of funding cycles before all the money comes together. But the money's together, they're hoping to close soon, and so now we need to get the documents ready so they can get the work done.
And just so people know, those are long-time affordable housing units for people with disabilities and seniors that are, close to 130 units, I think, total between the two buildings, and we're going to help with the rehabilitation of those buildings and
That is correct.
and get them in good shape for a couple decades to come.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. On the reports and recommendations portion of the agenda, this is the Stephanie Hawkinson show this morning, and we're going to have her recommendations here. on what we call local affordable housing aid. That was something passed by the legislature. She's going to walk through all of that. And we are getting a certain amount of, I think, sales tax proceeds from LAHA, as so many acronyms in government. That's one of our newest ones, local affordable housing aid. And she's got some recommendations on how to use those funds. So welcome,
That is
Member Stephanie Hawkinson. Thank you.
Thank you. You took away a little bit of the wind from my sails to explain. Yes, this is the second year that we have received the funding. This is a 0.25% sales tax that's applied metro-wide, and to help preserve affordable housing within all the jurisdictions, in order to keep families from losing housing and to help those experience homelessness find housing. That was the original intent of these funds. So they have to be spent on a qualifying project. And in addition to helping with homeless prevention, so emergency rental assistance is like what instigated the passage of this funding. But it's financial support for nonprofits, affordable housing providers, construction, acquisition, rehab, demolition of affordable housing, financing operations and management for distressed properties, and operating emergency shelter facilities. Those are some of the larger buckets for how these funds can be used. In 2025, this year, we are receiving $875,381.99. I am happy to throw in that extra penny if that helps make a difference. This is an increase over the 2024 allocation, which was $339,000 plus change because it was a partial year last year. This is the amount that each city receives is based on a distribution factor related to housing cost burden. So they take housing cost burden across the metro, and they give, there's a percentage of what portion of what we are experiencing housing cost burden relative to everyone else. So our distribution factor was, for what it's worth, 0.0211 last year, and this year it is 0.0205. So we have slightly less housing cost burden than we had last year. So in coming up with this list of how the money should be spent, I did come up with this plan, and I shared it with the Values Viewfinder, just to make sure that, since one of our budget pillars, we look through the Values Viewfinder lens, I wanted to make sure that this aligned with how the process and how this was being allocated aligned with what they envision. And so we have met, and what I am proposing is what you see here is $200,000 to VEAP for emergency rental assistance, close to $582,000 for our affordable ownership preservation program, and then $93,500 for Mount Olivet Rolling Acres for rehab of their 2 facilities in Edina. So, as stated, $200,000 for VEAP for their emergency rental assistance program. This is a short-term aid to households who are experiencing an event that causes them to fall short of funds for paying rent, such as illness, gap between jobs, etc. It's not intended to be long-term rental assistance. It's a short-term emergency fund. This aid helps people remain in their homes and wards off homelessness, which was fundamentally the reason for this funding. Today, in the audience, we have Jennifer Harrison, VEAP's Vice President of Advancement, in case there are questions. As a reminder, VEAP stands for Volunteers Enlisted to Assist People. They are a local nonprofit organization that has been serving the community for over 50 years. We do have a history of giving to them, starting when COVID hit. When COVID hit, as we are well aware, many people were forced to stay home from work. A lot of service industries, gig workers, a lot of folks had to stay home, yet rent was still due if they were able to pay it. There was an emergency moratorium that people couldn't be evicted, but people that run rental properties need to pay their bills. And so, helping with rental assistance helped the whole chain. So we had allocated a portion of our federal ARPA money and CARES funds to support the Edina residents that required rental assistance. Since then, most of the federal funds have gone away, but people are still at risk of losing their homes. Last year, with the inauguration of LAHA, we granted a portion of our allocation to VEEP due to the ongoing need and because the service seems to best align with the primary purpose of this funding. As stated too, this is emergency, not long-term rental assistance. It is not Section 8. It is not something that people can rely on month after month. It helps households through a life-changing event. It's typically allowed for 3 months, but we have learned through experience that sometimes people, when they are facing illnesses or job losses, 3 months may not be enough. And so we want VEEP to have the authority to assess situations on a case-by-case basis, and if someone needs that 4th month or even that 5th month, to allow for it instead of just cutting them off and having it be too much of a short-term Band-Aid, but really help them get over the crises. We're saying that 25% of the award may be used for staffing and administration. One thing that VEEP is experiencing is there's this huge need, but someone needs to process those applications. They need people to go through them, to meet with folks, to find out what the situation is, to meet with the landlords, and so that takes financing. And our portion of the LAHA that we give to VEEP will serve Edina residents. It does not go into a general pool to serve anyone that asks that is allocated for Edina residents, and is tracked accordingly. VEEP, like many other organizations, is experiencing extreme hardship due to the loss of federal funding. This is not a revenue-based organization. They provide for people who really have no place else to turn. They provide food free of charge and rental assistance as grants. The primary source of revenue came from programs that were established as safety nets, including the federal government, and these safety nets have gone away. VEEP no longer receives any money from the formerly federally funded Family Homeless Prevention Assistance Program, nor emergency food and shelter programs. And although the community development program still exists, it has been gutted. And they receive a small fraction of what they used to receive. So they are highly dependent on private donations and cities now, where they were previously got a lot of their money from the feds. Even though they have experienced budget cuts, VEEP is still serving Edina residents. They have to a lesser extent than previously, in part due to all these cuts on the federal level. They also, in 2025, the numbers dropped in part due to staffing. There's some staffing issues that have been resolved. And they have had to reorganize where they only allow applications at the couple days at the beginning of the month, so the staff that they do have time to process the applications they get. So they do shut off the stream of applications in order to process some of them, just because of the staffing. And so what they're changing the process a little bit to be more focused, and they've been talking about maybe having one day a month and the school community services or at our new fire station 2, where they can meet people where they're at to help process some of those applications, to try to really target the Edina money to the Edina residents and getting some of these numbers back up. So only Edina residents are served with the Edina-based funding, but 654 households in Edina have been served between April 2020 and July. It's households with incomes up to 50% of AMI, but majority have incomes under 30% of AMI. It's a lot of seniors and a lot of families with children. There are individuals as well, but they're not the vast majority. And it's households that range between 1 and 8 people that are being served. So that is program number 1. And again, Jennifer is here if you want me to go through the whole slide deck and then ask questions, or if you do, I can move on, but I just wanted to let you know.
Questions? Yes. Commissioner Agnew.
Thank you. If you could just go back a slide as well. I think that this is great, right? Helping 9 additional residents than we would have otherwise is amazing. But like you had said as well, we would like to see this number increase. So can you speak to, and I know you're not going to be able to hypothesize, what the increase necessarily will be, but how can we be assured that the increase in funding that we're providing this year, because I do think it's an increase year over year, that will go and result in an increase in the number of Edina residents specifically that we're supporting?
One of the issues in 2025 was they thought the grant had ended. And so they stopped processing Edina applications using this money. There was a misunderstanding of the grant terms. And so it was halted for 3 months. So there is now, the LAHA money is 3 years. And so there's now a clear understanding to not halt the program. And then there was a very serious illness amongst senior staff. And so it's just scrambling. They figured out a plan. So there's like a perfect storm that occurred this year that really halted applications from Edina residents being processed during a 3-month time period. And then I called them and I'm like, no, the grant. And so then we talked about that and it's like, oh, it's not over? And I'm like, no, you still have money. So then the wheels started turning again. So that issue is no longer. With the outreach, they're really just hoping that they will be able to get more people through the door. Time will tell, but there is need out there. They have a waiting list. They are getting calls from Edina residents. They just weren't able to get them processed.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that you're confident that for this next year, the resourcing challenges are going to be covered from a human capacity perspective, and so the only constraint maybe moving forward will be the number of families that we're able to support is going to be because of the $200,000 component.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. As an organization, they're doing a lot of having to figure out how to deal with these massive cuts on the federal level. So it's going to be hard. I mean, this is not a fix. This is a small ability to keep going with hopes that other cities will follow suit. But it is clearly not enough to really address the issues that they're facing. But we're hoping that it will help, with our residents.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation. I'm pleased to be supporting VEEP, even though things are bad. It's better than nothing. And in your presentation, there were 654 families, and you talked about how it's primarily seniors and families with children. Can you give us the individual numbers, or you don't have those?
I don't have those on hand. I have them in my report. I receive with the draw when they ask for money for reimbursement. It's a reimbursement basis. So they let me know how much money went out the door, and I fulfill a draw. They include stats of family size, age demographics. I have that in my computer, but I don't have that with me right now.
So just, do you have a rough approximation of what that is?
No, I just know that I was alarmed by the number of seniors, and that there were a lot of the ages were from 0 to mid-80s.
So the reason I ask is we're going to be talking about our housing policy later on, and it's really important for us to understand what the need is based on data as opposed to just sort of feelings and anecdotes. So
I can get that for you.
that'd be awesome. Thank you so much.
Commissioner Risser, did you have a question or two?
If you could go back to the slide that shows the reduction in money from, that one. I'm just curious how this allocation of funds compares to last year's, and specifically thinking about that 200,000, which is probably going to go pretty fast, I don't know. But with the Affordable Ownership Preservation Program, that's getting the vast majority of the funding. And I'm wondering how many people will benefit from that? And then also, if this allocation of funds is pretty similar to the breakdown in previous years for the LAHA money.
Chair, Commissioners, last year we provided Veep with $100,000. So it's twice what we gave them last year. But it is on par. So during COVID, we gave them in 2020 a total of $500,000. In 2022, we gave them $466,000. So with the loss, that we're not making up for the deficits from these federal sources with the $200,000. But I don't think we have the capacity to do that.
Okay, and the one thought that entered my head is, would it make sense to lower the amount of money going into the Affordable Ownership Preservation Program so we could bump up the amount of money going to Veep?
Chair, Commissioners, I think that is a decision that you all can make, or you can see how the $200,000 goes this year, as it's twice what you gave last year, and we still have a little bit, due to that pause, we still have a little bit remaining from last year's allocation.
We could get information on how many people will likely benefit from the money going to the preservation program. That would be super helpful. Thank you.
This is more of a general overarching question. How did you go about deciding how you would recommend to us we allocate the totality of the funds?
That is a good question, and sometimes it's an art rather than a science. So with Mount Olivet Rolling Acres...
We trust your feelings.
With Mount Olivet Rolling Acres, that was a concrete number. They had bids. They said, this is how much, or if not bids, they had professional estimates of how much the work that was needed on those two buildings, how much that cost. It was a concrete number. Here it is. With Veep, it was twice what we gave last year. So I thought that was reasonable without, I felt like going above twice was a large leap for us to get our heads wrapped around. Even though the need is there, but they still have to work through some of the capacity. They still have to get it out the door. And since there was money remaining from this year, I felt like $200,000 was reasonable to get out the door. And that left the Affordable Ownership Preservation Program, which when we went through our work sessions, that was one of the priorities that was listed by all of you, is to try to preserve NOAA homes and create affordable ownership opportunities. And so since that was a priority of the HRA, that's why and because gap per home is about $300,000, that seemed like it was 2 homes, roughly, and that's how I came up with that distribution.
Where is there, Commissioner?
I'm confused. Was the total allocation last year less than it was this year?
The total allocation last year, Chair and Commissioners, was $339,000. So last year we gave $100,000 to Veep and $239,000 to the Ownership Preservation Program. So it was about less than half of what we're getting this year.
So we're essentially keeping pace with what we gave last year because now we have twice as much.
We have a little bit more than twice as much, correct.
With the allocating resources in terms of the workshops that we have, I do want to say missing from those workshops was a breakdown on the number of people who would benefit. It was not really part of the equation. And when we did the final exercise for the 3rd meeting, we didn't know that we would be doing that going in. And so I understand the logic of listening to are taking that into account, but I also, especially in this particular climate where federal funds are being reduced, just want to put that out there. Things are changing, and we also weren't really in a situation where we could have prepared for that. So I want to say that.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So next year, when we're in this position, I think it would be really interesting to hear from Veep. We had this many applications and we were only able to, meet this need. I think that'd be really helpful for us. I know this was a tough year, and I appreciate that. But next year, hopefully things will go smoothly and everybody will stay healthy, and we can say, we gave 200,000, but there was need for 500,000, or just some benchmark to think about. I think going on last year's as a first time thing is a good idea because that's the data we have. But in the future, I think we would really want to know how many people we had to turn away. So.
Absolutely, I agree fully.
Okay, thank you.
I'm wondering if it might be helpful for us to hear from Ms. Harrison about, just anecdotally, some of the ways that we've been able to help with over $1 million that we've provided to VEET for rental assistance over the past 4.5 years or so.
Well, good morning. One of the things that I want to share is that the city of Edina was one of the first to step up during the pandemic when we really needed the support, and you really led the charge, in front of all three cities that we serve primarily. And so I want to thank you for that. You've been a leader for us. It very much shows that you put your residents first, and we're thankful to be able to be one of the organizations that's able to get these funds out into the community, especially when it comes to keeping people in their homes. We really prioritize the rental assistance because keeping people in their homes is easy compared to the alternative. When folks become homeless, that becomes a whole nother issue, and quite frankly becomes a lot more expensive. And so allowing us the opportunity to do this has been wonderful. As I said, we've been able to disperse hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars into the community. And we've been able to do it really effectively. When the pandemic hit, we were able to pivot and bring on staff to be able to process the applications and get these funds out the door. Obviously, in 2025, we've had a few issues at in first quarter where we had a little bit of a hiccup. But going forward, we are hopeful to be in the new fire station. Our goal is to be there at least 2 or 3 days a week to meet your community members where they are at, and to let folks know that we're here. Not only are we seeing more seniors, but we're also seeing new people. The economic environment has changed, and folks that may not have needed services before are coming to us or need us and don't know that we're here. If you're new to needing services, you might not always know where to go. And so we want to be in the places where the people are in order to be able to access their needs and fulfill their needs through these funds. And we've done it well before with your partnership, and thank you so much for, truly thank you. You have been an absolute leader in this process for us over the last 5 years, and we are grateful.
Thank you for that. Oh, hold on a moment, okay, I guess you can sit down. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that Commissioner Pierce had a chance to visit with you if that was what he intended.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I really appreciate those comments. The thing that is I'll say challenge for me, and particularly in this space, is when you have dollars and you have to figure out how to allocate them, and you're trying to answer the question, where do we get the most value as a community versus, and you didn't do this, but I'm going to use the word arbitrarily kind of spread across multiple good programs, right? And so we're not doing it in an arbitrary way. But back to the comment from Commissioner Jackson, it would be good to have the data that suggests one is more value to the community than the other. So hearing the comment of keeping people in their homes versus helping them come back from homeless into a home is more expensive to deal with folks that are homeless. Because I think that might give us some insight into how we might want to appropriate not just these funds, but other funds that we may have the opportunity to kind of appropriate to those types of programs. And so I think having that would be awesome. And I want to reiterate, I know we didn't arbitrarily assign dollars, but it definitely would be good to have that data so that we know which of these programs is providing our community the best benefit, because that may shift over time, right?
I think, as we get through the other two, you'll see that there's a somewhat of a continuum. VEAP helps keep people in their homes by giving them the financial assistance to pay their rent. MORA is fixing up the homes to preserve the homes that people are in that are also as stated as a criteria population, and I'll get more into that. And then the home ownership preservation helps get people into home ownership. So there is somewhat of a continuum of how these funds are being allocated to get the spectrum. But I do hear what you're saying, and I have the data, I just didn't share it.
Comments by Ms. Harrison and follow-on observations by Commissioner Pierce caused me to think about several years ago at a U.S. Conference of Mayors meeting. Sam Liccardo, who was then the mayor of San Jose, was talking about this very issue in San Jose, and discovered the same thing, that it was much less and more draining on available resources to try to keep people living where they were living, as opposed to providing them with new housing, where the cost per door for a new apartment in San Jose was $750,000. It was a lot more efficient and effective to be using those funds to keep people that were, going through a divorce, kids. There's a multitude of different reasons. It's the analysis that led them to think, we got to have a program that keeps them where they are, and it's much less draining on public resources than providing them with new housing. So, Member Risser, Commissioner Risser.
Would it make sense to table this so we could get that data and use that before we vote, and also hear from VEAP? The one thing that I keep thinking about is the new space in the fire station. It'd be kind of hard to set this up and then discover that, 7 months out, we're no longer able to, finance things for people.
Yeah, and then explain why you were thinking that it might be better to table.
So we could make a more informed decision and have that information that we're asking for right now.
Well, but this,
Or do we need?
We've got 800 and some thousand to deal with here. You might have a comment.
I interpreted the data to help with future years, since this was an anomaly year. It's up to you, clearly. It would not be able to come back until end of October or November if we were to table it. And I do know that with the other two programs and even with VEAP, the need is probably prior to November. And then we have to draft the grant applications and those such items, which delays it even further. That said, I can either report back on data to help with next year's allocation, or we start, we just incorporate that for next year's allocation, or it's however you want to proceed.
Commissioner Jackson.
I'd like to hear the other presentations before we make any decisions.
Also thinking about the fact that you've made recommendations in 3 different areas that are critical and that probably need immediate attention, but let's finish up and then we'll have that conversation.
So number 2 is our Affordable Preservation Ownership Program. This is a program that we have that's in partnership with Twin Cities Habitat for Humanity and Homes Within Reach. Today we have in the audience is Brenda Lana-Wilkie, and Noah is not here. This is, from the work sessions, it was the highest priority is to preserve Noah, our modest homes in Edina, and get them into affordable ownership. The Land Trust Program creates ownership for 99 years. So with regards to number of people served, on turn, there's a new family. So it's not just the initial family, it's the families that keep moving into that home for the next 99 years. So it retains community and ownership wealth within those homes. It enhances residential stability because it allows these homeowners to live in a home that they can afford. And then the long-term affordability, and it serves the working folk that are in the city. We have given and supported this program over the years. The gap per home is not insignificant. Again, if we were to calculate it back per year over 99 years, it's a little more palatable. It's a couple $1,000s, but it's $300,000 at the front end. And that is attributed to the land that is placed into the land trust. And this value could increase. This is what we established in 2021. So that could see some changes over the next couple years is where the land, we're going to have to attribute more because incomes are not keeping pace with land values. So we may have to, be somewhat flexible in what is available and what people can afford. In exchange for being able to buy a home below market value, you take a $450,000 home and you're able to buy it for a little over $200,000 or about $200,000. For that, being able to do that, the buyer agrees to a limited equity when they go and sell the home. So of the funds that we have contributed to this program, it's going, it's dwindling. We're almost out of some sources. They have completed, the Homes Within Reach has completed that $3.3 million. That's out the door. We have some of the LAHA left, but they have it earmarked. There's homes right now. They're still looking for homes. Some closings are pending. They're out in the future. And so some of this money that's left has already been earmarked. So how does this work? Well, we've sent postcards to all homeowners of homes valued up to $425,000. Some of these are out-of-state investment homeowners. Some of them are local. Interested home sellers contact the city. I had someone who lives in Indiana who's still dealing with her mother's home that is in Edina, wondering if she wants to sell it through this program she's contemplating. There are a few people like that who are dealing with their aunts or their parents' home. It's in the trust. They are trying to figure out and working with their siblings on what to do with these homes. If they want to go on this program, I get permission from them to share their contact information. I share it with Habitat and Homes Within Reach. They decide, who has the capacity at that time. It's what's great about having two organizations. They go and inspect the home to see if it fits within their program guidelines. Then they work with the seller on buying the home. Then they rehabilitate the house. They draw money from us, to buy it. They rehabilitate it. They go through their vetting process for how they find an eligible buyer. They have two different processes. They're working together to get their processes more aligned because they ultimately end up in the land trust with Homes Within Reach. And then they remain. And the land trust is always there. So if they come up with issues that they're facing, the land trust doesn't go away. They're a continual party into this deal. So since 2021, there have been 22 homes that have been bought through this program. I'm pretty excited by that, with 3 pending. The houses were sold to end buyers for roughly $200,000. 17 homes are owned and occupied, many by young families. Again, there's some pending. This is a continual process. They're researchers, educator, utility worker, chef, family advocate, people that work in the school district. There are a lot of folks that have been able to benefit from this program. And then, as I said, that 99 years. So that's that program. Brenda is here if you have any questions for her, or I can go on to Maura. Keep going? Okay. So the third is for Mount Olivet Rolling Acres. They are a nonprofit founded in 1965. They provide residential services. This was also stated as a priority during our work sessions to serve household people with disabilities. This is affordable housing for people with disabilities. They are licensed by the state of Minnesota, and they operate 2 homes in Edina that serve roughly 8 people. One can fluctuate between having 4 residents or 5 residents. The 2 homes, one was acquired in 2015. They have 4 residents who are the originals, and they serve people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. The second home was acquired in 2001. It housed 8 people since opening, and they are people that are facing mental health challenges. I would like to say these homes were acquired with the assistance of the Edina Housing Foundation. One mortgage has been completely repaid and satisfied. The other one, they have never missed a payment since I've been here. So when I get the monthly reports on the Edina Foundation, they're right there, making their monthly payments. So all the residents qualify for medical assistance with incomes below 80%. There is an annual income and asset review to make sure they still income qualify to live there. And this program and their assistance is being threatened because of federal budget cuts. Their overall cuts to medical assistance could impact the residents that live in these homes. Like I said, they were acquired with financing from the Edina Housing Foundation. The state funding provides minimum increases for upkeep, but not for major rehab projects. And the money that pays for the rehab is from private individuals, private donations. And since these houses are getting older, some of the needs are surpassing individual contributions. Then 2025, the capital cost for all their homes, not just in Edina, was $1.6 million. So that far exceeded individual contributions. So for the 2 homes, one needs $36,000 for repairs and the other one needs $57,500. So that's how I came up with that number. It was a combined total of $93,500, and it's to make these homes safe, to get rid of tripping hazards, to get to refortify decks, to address some of the issues to make it a more livable place for their residents and to be able to do it all at once. That's them, and we have representatives from Maura as well. So
Thanks for being here. All right, thank you. Questions, Commissioner Jackson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So we also have a program to help repair homes, whether they're condominiums or single-family homes, so that with income qualified people. Do the LAHA funds not qualify for that? Or
Commissioner Jackson, that program is funded through our Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and there are still funds remaining, and part of that program is those funds are recycled because we are hoping that we could make it self-sufficient. But there are funds still remaining in that program, and some have been repaid, not to the degree that refortifies the original, but there's still capacity in that program from the original funding.
Okay, so these are the ones with the highest need. I mean, obviously, Maura, this is the first time, and I'm very supportive of it's wonderful to keep these properties usable and safe, and better to preserve it now than to worry about it down the road, so.
They're different. The home rehab program we have now is for homeowners. This is rental. So people, they pay rent to live there. So we don't have a rental rehab program.
Right, I'm not meaning to
Okay.
conflate those.
Okay.
It's a fourth bucket that I'm
Yeah.
thinking about.
Correct.
So, but these three buckets are, in your estimation, the highest need, because there's still money in the home repair bucket. So this is where we need to be putting the money.
Chair, Commissioners, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Risser.
Just real basic, can we get this presentation up on the website?
Chair, Commissioner, all presentations will be uploaded to the website, yes.
It'd be great if we could have it before the meeting.
I think one question I'd like to have answered is, how does a Lutheran church in the home repair business end up with a name that sounds like it came out of the greater Minnesota, Rolling Acres? I want all of it, Rolling Acres.
I cannot answer that.
So we are an affiliate.
You have to come up to the microphone and identify yourself. And
So my name is Katie Elleras. I'm the Senior Director of Advancement at Mount Olivet Rolling Acres. We were started in 1965 by a group of parents who came out of the Mount Olivet Lutheran Church who had children that they were raising with disabilities and wanted something more than a state institution for their child. And we're on Rolling Acres Road in Victoria, Minnesota, which is where one of our offices are located.
all right, that makes me, that's more understandable now. Sort of. Commissioner Pierce.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So you guys know I work for an organization, Minnesota Diversified Industries, and we hire we have about 500 employees, and half of them have a disability. And so these types of housing is typically one of the biggest challenges because they need transportation to be able to come to work. And so I definitely support organizations who are playing their part in that supply chain, if you will, to support this community. And so I just wanted to circle back to when we look at the data, right, it feels great, like what we're able to have, what we've accomplished with the dollars that we've had in all three programs. But I still I don't know if we're having the best impact for the community or not. Because we're looking at the numbers in 22, right, for the homes that we've taken over and remodeled and resold. 22 is better than 5. But if we made a different choice in how we appropriate funds, could 22 then be 30? Like, I don't know. Are there other homes? So if we gave more, $75,000 more, are there other opportunities to provide more housing? And so that's like what's running around in my head. But you're closer to it than any of us are. And so we do have to trust that you're taking that input and ensuring that we get the best value out of these dollars. I am not suggesting that I know enough to tell us what appropriation is better than the other, but it would be good for you to be able to say to us, yeah, this is maybe I'd word it this way, this is the greatest need in Edina, and here is how we're going to appropriate funds to go after that particular need. And then, right, we do that each cycle. You come in and you tell us how well we've done, or in some instances, we haven't been able to we haven't been able to use all the funds that have been appropriated because maybe houses aren't available or whatever. But that's the thing that is missing for me. And I say all of that, I still wouldn't table making this appropriation. But having that insight to know that, yeah, we are having the best impact for our community moving forward would be awesome to have that insight.
May I respond to that?
Yes.
Chair, Commissioners, I believe this is the best value for the money that we have. I apologize if I have not given you the proper insight. I was responding in part due to your priorities that I have heard stated over the past years of what you want to focus on in the area of affordable housing. So it was in response to that. Veep was not listed as a priority, but I think, clearly your response to it, everyone's response to it, it seems like it's like an assumed priority to help people remain in their homes and not lose their homes. And it was also because it was a priority of the funding sources. So yes, and I also believe that some cities do bank this money and have it accrue over 3 years and don't spend it annually. I believe that our needs that are current and now can't wait for a 3-year growing a bucket to be a $2 million bucket that would maybe support a new development and provide gap financing for a new development. Because, well, with the Affordable Preservation Program, we're losing our modest homes on a regular basis. The supply of them that remains in the community is dwindling. And so I believe the time is now to be able to act on being able to accrue those homes. And that was true with Mora, is that the needs were now, and it seemed like it fit the priorities that I had heard. So I do have confidence that based on the calls I received, no, if I had $10 million, I would have a lot of additional items on this list, but I would have these items on the list. But the need out there is far greater than this, based on the calls I get.
Thank you.
Commissioner Agnew.
Thank you. I just want to add that I have full confidence in the analysis that you've put into this. I know that you are, as James said, a lot closer to all of the ins and the outs. But also, to echo what, Commissioner Pierce said, I just want to see a little bit more of your work, right? To help us, even if we just think about it, like answer all of these questions for us up front so we're not having the conversation. But I think it's just about understanding, like, there's definitely a logic to having it spread across these three rather than, snowballing it into one particular bucket because of the components of the continuum that each one target, right? It targets a different need. So I understand that, but yeah, just bring a little bit more that shows, even if you just do the calculation of we served 9 families through Veep with $100,000, and so this was the relative cost for every family through Veep, and here's the relative cost for the houses that we're supporting through more, like a little bit of that I think would just close the loop on it. But I also am not recommending that we table it. I'm definitely supportive of this and really appreciate all of the analysis and work that I know you did to come up with this recommendation.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I want to thank you also. You've been listening very carefully. The problem is we're sending you mixed messages. This is complicated and it's cloudy. And as public servants, we see the want. And we express things in terms of the want, and you see things in terms of the need. And so, it's very complicated, and I think you've done a very good job of listening to us, and thank you, and you've put a lot of time and effort into that. I just want to acknowledge that the need and want are two different things, and the need is so great that we just have been focusing more on the want because we can never meet all the need. And I just want to say, thank you for listening, and thanks for your analysis.
I'd like to make a decision this morning.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Commissioner Visser, any further thoughts?
I see the logic of not tabling this. Another idea, maybe instead of the 581, we go to 381 and put 200 aside so that if it appears the impact from all those federal cuts is even greater than we thought, we would have a little wiggle room. But that's the last little curveball I'll throw out.
I don't want to speak for you, Commissioner Risser, but I think what you're thinking is, this is my interpretation, is that we've got another item coming up here where we're going to be asked to approve $1 million from the Southdale TIF fund being moved into this Edina Heroes program for down payment assistance. And that because we've got this money in the affordable housing, affordable ownership preservation program, there might be some room to kind of navigate. But with two separate buckets, I think it's a little bit tricky. We got LAHA money in one bucket and you got TIF money in another bucket. And for me, I feel like we need to think about it that way, unfortunately, and that the recommendations that we're seeing here are compelling. And I think we need to trust our staff analysis and the things that have been presented to us this morning in terms of making this decision. Commissioner Risser, you had to follow on.
Just that part of this decision was really driven by the workshops that we had and the exercise where we put the little red dots on different things. So I have said what my concerns are.
All right, okay. The recommended motion from Manager Hawkinson is that we approve the recommendation, authorize staff to engage council to prepare agreements that would reflect that staff recommendation of $200,000 going to the VEEP Emergency Rental Assistance Program, $581,881.99 going into the Affordable Ownership Preservation Program, and that $93,500 be allocated to the Mount Olivet Rolling Acres Home Repair Program. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Jackson moves, Commissioner Pierce seconds the motion as stated. Further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the motion as stated, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Those allocations are approved with the LAHA money. Thanks for being here this morning with us, folks. And we know you've got challenging work ahead of you here. It's been an interesting time. Thank you for being here. And then the next matter, we've got two more matters on the agenda this morning. One is the so-called Edina Heroes Down Payment Assistance Program, and Manager Hawkinson has this matter as well.
Yes. This is, this idea for this program also came about from the work sessions, focus on affordable housing. During the third meeting, it was stated that an area of focus should be for people who work in the city generally, and more specifically, for people who work in the city and serve Edina residents. Another interest was helping homeowners buy modest housing stock in the city rather than the buyer being a developer. This program is designed to help people buy homes in the city closer to their work by providing a deferred down payment second mortgage to reduce the amount needed to borrow from the first mortgage lender, making the home affordable for those income ranges. For example, if a worker can afford to qualify for a $400,000 mortgage, but the house is listed at $500,000, the $100,000 difference can become from a second mortgage with the principal not due until the house is sold. This helps make buying a home in Edina more affordable. This really is parallel to the Come Home to Edina program, but for quote-unquote heroes. The maximum loan size is a little larger at $100,000, but it's no more than 25% of the home value or 25% of the gross income applied to PITI. Principal, interest, taxes. It will be coterminous with the first mortgage, so if both are 30 years, with the principal deferred until term or sale. The loan would be a shared appreciation. We could also include the interest only. Shared appreciation is used about 95% of the time by Come Home to Edina borrowers. The income limit, and this is due to the funding source, is 115% of area median income, so about $137,000 for a household of 3 or more, or 100% AMI for a 1- and 2-person household. Again, I have no control over that. It's based on funding source requirements. Maximum home value up to $600,000, and proof of employment within the city at the time of the loan. And then the first-generation buyers could qualify for an additional $20,000 that you had granted to the Edina Housing Foundation. So, truth be told, this income level may not be sufficient to buy a $600,000 home, but we're thinking there may be those, that was the amount that was stated at those work sessions. But if someone has saved for a long time, received an inheritance plus this down payment assistance, that's why I still propose keeping that cap at that for those one-offs. Eligibility, healthcare professionals, all active nurses, doctors, surgeons, specialists, technicians, lab techs, anyone that works in the healthcare field in Edina. Teachers and educators, all active teachers, daycare workers, people who work with our children in some capacity, custodians, lunch room lady, school district folks, and municipal employees, firefighters, EMS, law enforcement. So people that serve the Edina residents so they can live closer to their job, so they can be there at work. And it has an environmental aspect as well, keeps fewer cars on the street. So the funding request is $1 million in Southdale 2 pooled TIF. If you recall, the HRA sought legislative authority to use the Southdale 2 funds specifically to assist in affordable housing, which was granted. I think it took 2 years to get it through the legislation to allow these funds to be used for affordable housing. Using the authority to grant funds to the Edina Housing Foundation purposes of this down payment assistance fit within those guidelines. I have met with Jay Lindgren and Nick Anhut a lot about this program to help structure it in a way that would fit within the program, the legislative authority, and TIF guidelines generally. So there are approximately $6 million in that pool for affordable housing, but it's a restrictive. How those funds can be used is fairly restrictive, different than the LAHA funds. If granted, $1 million for the HEROES program, $5 million would remain for other affordable housing endeavors. I'm suggesting this source because it is restrictive and as this is a qualifying use for it, and because we looked at the trust fund, there's just not enough money remaining in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to support this program. The grant would go to the Edina Housing Foundation, who would own and implement this program, as they do with the Come Home to Edina program. So they would operate in the same way. They'd do the underwriting, they'd work with the servicer. The mortgage and the notes would be in their name, so they would track them. And then they also work with CEE to do the servicing. And so on the right-hand side of the slide shows the checklist of all the things that is required to get a Come Home to Edina. It'd be the same checklist, but we'd have proof of employment within the city. So who is the Edina Housing Foundation? For those people watching, not you all, I think you're fairly familiar with them. It's created in 1985 to administer a second mortgage program, and it was actually the funds that were used at that time were also TIF for the creation of Centennial Lakes and Edinburgh. The current iteration of Come Home to Edina has been in effect since 2007. They originated 183 loans. They have vast experience in knowing how to do this. The amount they've lent out is $8.9 million. They've leveraged over $40 million in home purchases, and they own the notes and mortgages, as stated. So the fact that the HEROES program would be using this funding source is, again, somewhat parallel to the origins of the Come Home to Edina program in general. Similar to the Come Home to Edina program, the Edina Housing Foundation will review the application, underwrite the loan, prepare a note and mortgage, and then those will be recorded. The foundation will work with CEE to track the loan, satisfy the mortgages when repaid. There are two types of mortgages I mentioned, shared appreciation and interest only, and this helps with if people can't afford the full price of a home It's because they don't have the monthly income to be able to, so with both these, the principal's deferred. So they don't have to pay on the principal, so that allows them to get this higher priced home. But they can elect which they want, is shared appreciation or interest only. 95% choose the shared appreciation model, because then there's 0 monthly payments during the time they live in that home. So the next steps, sorry I clicked too far, we would prepare a grant agreement that I would come back for approval. And we would modify the current existing Come Home to Edina notes and mortgage to reflect this program. And the foundation would then implement it, and they'd qualify the program participants.
Questions for Manager Hawkinson? Yes, Commissioner Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we'll be giving a grant to the Edina Housing Foundation. It sounds like maybe this is a much more limited type of program than what they've done in the past. Will they be reporting back to us the success of this program? Because I'd like to make sure we're funding something that's useful. What's the reporting process for this?
Chair, Commissioners, we could definitely have that be a requirement. There is a close relationship with the Edina Housing Foundation, so I think that could be requested at any time, but we can also have it a condition of the grant agreement.
Yeah, I think that'd be good to get it something regular that sort of, because people forget. But I would love to hear whether this is successful or not. This, I think, really reflects, thank you, and thanks to the Housing Foundation for creating this program. It reflects the need that we're hearing, or the desire of the community to house people who work here and help people. So that's a good program, but I'd like to know whether we're successful or not.
Most definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Agnew.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much for presenting on this. I know this is something that we've talked about a few times of how can we specifically target populations of people that are already a part of the Edina community. So I love seeing a program like this, and I love how throughout you kind of sprinkled in at least some visuals of programs like this that exist in other locations, right? So it's not like we designed a new wheel and tried to figure out like how can we do something. There are other examples of success in this area, it seems like across the United States, that we then leaned into, learned from, and are attempting to implement a similar program. So just kudos to you for all of the work that you did, and then, yeah, not redefining the wheel and just kind of looking at what else has been successful. I do have a couple like specific questions. You talked a little bit about the $600,000 home price maximum. Can you speak to me again about like how we arrived on that? Because I did pull up Zillow. There are currently 13 houses that are for sale in the boundaries of Edina that are at 600 or below. So I'm just kind of curious, like how did we align on that number, and does that ensure that there's enough market to have this be successful?
Chair, Commissioners, the number came about a couple of different ways. One was from you all. I think it was just thrown out. I grabbed onto it. So the median home price in Edina is over $700,000. So it is below the median price. Minnesota Housing and the Come Home to Edina have a maximum home value of $515,000. So this is a little greater than what is allowed through the Come Home to Edina and state down payment assistance programs. Anything greater than this, because we have an income cap based on the funding source, would be, the numbers don't work. If you take that income, you take 30% of that income roughly, you factor in interest rates, you factor in all those things, having them be able to afford, I think even 600 is going to be a reach. And that's why I said with 600, I'll keep that because it was a number that was stated, but there would have to be, they would have to have a gift in addition to our 100,000, an inheritance, a family gift of some sort, in order to increase that down payment, because the mortgage that they would qualify for would probably be roughly about $400,000, and you have to factor in their credit score, there's so many, I mean, home buyers, you know that there's so many things that determine how much you can afford in a home. So that's how we came up with 600. I still think it's a little bit of a reach, but it was a number that had been repeatedly stated for something to try to achieve too for homeownership here.
Yeah, because I'm just trying to make sure that we make a program that's attainable, right? Like both, they are able to afford the monthly, so I appreciate the analysis that you did on that side, but I also want to know that there's supply within our market for them to find homes that fit into this, that are not just tear down quality.
Chair, Commissioners, truthfully, with the Affordable Ownership Preservation Program, there have been alignments where there have been buyers into that program that have utilized the Come Home to Edina program, and one was actually a police officer. So, you're right, supply is limited. I am not limiting this to houses, where a lot of the Come Home to Edina program has been condominiums as well and townhomes. But historically with the Come Home to Edina program, lately, since we increased our cap of the down payment assistance when it was $60,000, we saw more condominiums. When that increased to 90, we saw more houses. So by having a cap of 100 and increasing the cap on the housing value, I thought that helped offset it, because then they only need to borrow 500,000, and then if there's other streams. So you're right, the supply, it's a challenge because there's not much on the market. And we do that analysis. Mary Kay, who's on our foundation board, she's a former loan officer. She looks at Zillow all the time and tries to do those analysis. And she says, yeah, it's going to be a challenge because there's just not much housing stock.
Yeah, and that's where I'm just thinking, I don't know, I'm supportive of approving this and moving forward and beginning to understand, like, is this utilized? Are there gaps? You know, I'm thinking of this first year as being really ripe for learning and opportunity. But just thinking that might be something that we need to tweak of, is there a possibility to increase somehow? I know that there are certain caps, right? But just something to think about, because I do want this to be attainable for folks.
Another data point, Chair and Commissioners, that I could share was in 2024, we closed on 25 Come Home to Edina mortgages. And so this would be, if people maximize, this would be 10. So I was feeling confident that we could get 10 closings, since we're diminishing the pool of applicants to be people that work in Edina. Well, there's a lot of jobs in Edina. So, and with some marketing, I will be talking to the communications department about that. I'm confident they may not all be single-family homes, truthfully.
And then are we gonna get a fun logo too, or I saw the logo from the Florida program.
And South Carolina.
Yeah.
There's a lot of logos out there. I just was assured by our communications director that we can come up with a logo that's fun.
Wonderful, thank you.
That might be green.
Anyone else have anything here? You know, I like this program a great deal. It did give me pause when I was looking at the healthcare professionals category and wondering whether doctors and surgeons ought to be in that category. Seems to me like they'd be at an income level even starting out where they didn't need to worry about this, but affordability issue. I also liked it so much that I thought, well, we've got $6 million in that TIF pooled fund. Maybe we should allocate a little bit more to it, but I think particularly Commissioner Agnew's inquiries this morning have caused me to think about just put our toe in the water and see how this works. And I know we can use those funds for a variety of purposes, but let's just hold back. So I'm pretty comfortable personally with the approval at $1 million and being able to do up to 10 units with that money. And we'll see how it goes. So, we've got a recommendation from Manager Hawkinson that the motion read as follows: approve $1 million grant from the Southdale TIF Pooled Fund for the Heroes Down Payment Assistance Program and authorize staff to engage the city attorney to draft a grant agreement with the Edina Housing Foundation and to modify loan documents to reflect the program parameters. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Agnew moves, Commissioner Pierce seconds. The motion is stated. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of the motion as stated say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried? Off we go.
Thank you very much. This is
Director Benner
exciting.
will help you find a really good logo for it. All right, we got one more matter here to deal with this morning, and that is potential adoption of a resolution adopting a proposed budget for the HRA for taxable levy year 2026. You
got that
handling
one.
that matter?
Yep.
I don't see our finance director out there, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. What we're proposing to you today is asking you to establish the preliminary tax levy for the HRA. HRAs in cities are on slightly different schedules as it goes to setting the preliminary levy, but this will be the final opportunity you have as an HRA before September 16th to approve a levy. So that's why we're asking you to do it today, timing-wise. We have had a custom over the last 6 years, 3 budget cycles, to approach our HRA levy as with incremental growth of 3% each year. That's what we're proposing this year as well. The 2025 levy was $259,300. We're proposing a 3% increase to $267,100. That's a $7,800 increase, or 3%. We will blend this into the overall total tax levy proposal that we'll make to you on September 16th.
Yeah, thanks for that. It's a relatively modest increase. Explanation, I think, is satisfactory. Are there questions for our executive director on this matter, on this request? Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 2025-06, adopting the proposed budget for the HRA and establishing the proposed tax levy payable in 2026 for the HRA?
So moved.
Commissioner Jackson moves.
I second.
Commissioner Agnew seconds the adoption of the Resolution 2025-06. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adoption of Resolution 2025-06, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. The Resolution 2025-06 is approved and adopted. And that's it for the work of the HRA this morning on August 28th, 2025. Anybody have anything for the good of the order? Commissioner Risser?
Just more thoughts about yesterday, and I appreciate your comments this morning opening the meeting. I've also received emails from people asking that we do something, that we take action. And I did reply that on our last legislative platform, we did have an item, the possession of firearms in municipal facilities and school that have school-like use, and being able to have some control over that. And I don't know where that ended up, if it even got launched, but if it didn't, pursuing that. But this hit hard. Our first house was 2 blocks from Annunciation, and I was actually supposed to go over to that area yesterday morning. So, but thinking about what can we do? What can a municipality do? So we, all need to work in some way to reduce gun violence. It has just become too pervasive, and children need to be safe in schools. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. Manager Neal.
Just to follow up on that a little bit, and it's related to the call I had to step out to take. We had pretty quick contact yesterday with OLG and with leadership at OLG and leadership at Edina Public Schools. Today, the department is going out and having contact with other kind of church, but there's a number of church-based daycare centers are all over the community, including the for-profit daycare centers as well. So we are going to reach out to them, have a contact, make sure that they know who we are and we know who they are, so that if we do have some concern in the future, we can address them quickly.
And I don't know if you'd care to comment about the ongoing work we do with the public schools in terms of active shooter exercises and other things that are public safety related. Some of the matters I think that have been taken, or some of the actions that have been taken, particularly by the school district in terms of security, they prefer to keep confidential. But nonetheless, I think people should be assured that we're on top of this.
They should. We've had a long, positive working relationship with the school district, Edina Public Schools. It's the only school district that has facilities in Edina. But our police, our fire, our EMS, our dispatching staff, we spend a considerable amount of time with them during each year to make sure we've got a plan, not just to address what happens during an event, but after, when, like, that's where a lot of kind of traffic snares and concerns happen, is how do I get my kid at the end of an event like this? So we do have connections with them. We use those connections yesterday just to reaffirm where we are. School districts have their own requirements in state law about what kind of training they have to provide their own staff and what kind of plans they have to have, but we assist them with that to the best of our ability.
I had a dialogue with the superintendent last night, and we did do, as I mentioned earlier, a press release from the city yesterday with regard to our ongoing support and empathy. We did talk about some, to what Commissioner Risser is raising, releasing some kind of a joint press release today, and I think Director Benarott, I'll stay in touch with you on that and send you the text that I got from the superintendent. That might be something we want to do on a follow-up basis. To the issue of gun violence, I think Commissioner Risser was getting at, what could we as a municipality do about gun violence? At the park last night, of course, our Attorney General was talking about automatic weapons and the reauthorization of the use of automatic weapons. I guess it was actually the ban lapsed several years ago, and manufacturers went into active manufacture of those types of weapons. But I'm not sure what we can do other than be a voice if we decide we want to be. Commissioner Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So with these types of events, there's always a before and an after. So my before was yesterday morning, waking up thinking about the economic future of the Twin Cities. So I'm going to go to before for a little while. The Greater MSP met, I believe, 2 weeks ago, and the mayor was there, and I believe Mr. Neal was there. Were you there?
I don't know.
And
Bill.
Evan Ramstead of the Star Tribune wrote about it. And as the Economic Development Board for the city of Edina, I just want to raise the issue that growth has slowed in Minnesota, and I think when we look at the cost of housing and how difficult it is to develop wealth with a high cost of housing, from coming out of poverty to develop wealth, people who have expensive homes, their value has gone up dramatically. But I just want to sort of put that alert out there that growth has slowed in the Twin Cities. The decrease in the value of commercial property in downtown Minneapolis is affecting the way the taxes are spread out over, and it's more burden on residential, single-family residential owners. So I just wanted to alert people to that problem that's out there and hope that we can be part of the solution.
Thanks for that. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Jackson. During the meeting of the Housing and Redevelopment. Thank you. Thank you. During the meeting of the Edina Housing and Redevelopment Authority this Thursday, August 28th, 2025 at 9 o'clock in the morning. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried? We stand adjourned.